Madam Speaker, the Minister of Justice assures us that those individuals who suffer from mental health and are suicidal will not be considered for aid. That statement is a tautological paradox. If a person is in the depths of mental illness and they want to end their life, by definition, they are suicidal. A person who cannot cope mentally and whose government has abandoned them and there is no prospect of obtaining help, when that person decides to take their life, they are by definition not of sound mind. They do not have the mental capacity to give meaningful consent to ending their life. They are in desperate need of help. I say it another way.
You don't have to. That was pretty good.
It is near impossible to separate those with suicidal ideations from those with irremediable mental health condition. 90% of people who commit suicide today, in fact, have diagnosable mental disorders. That is why it is utterly unconscionable that those who are suffering from mental health could in 1 year from now be offered death as treatment. Madam Speaker, this option will be abused in the future.
In the future?
Because MAID has already been abused.
Okay.
With few safeguards that are currently still in place. There have been countless stories of abuse, stories of elderly, disabled, marginalized, mentally ill Canadians, veterans even, who have fallen through the cracks of care and become victims of Canada's permissive MAID regime.
I like her. The delivery is not the smoothest delivery, not the most eloquent, but it doesn't matter. Not everyone is going to be I don't know, who's an eloquent politician these days or an eloquent speaker? I don't know. Substance over form every day of the week. And is it Leslyn? Do I pronounce the S or not? Or Leyland? Because I thought at one point I heard someone say Leyland Lewis. Leslyn Lewis is phenomenal and speaking the truth. I'd love to have her on the show, but I'm not sure that she's going to come on at this point. Given the hard time of which I have been giving Monsieur Pierre Poilievre, we're going to get to it at some point during the day. And I wanted to start with something that would actually not make us gag, something that would not make us angry like Justin Trudeau, up there barking, berating, degrading, demeaning the very citizens he was elected to represent. Leslyn Lewis. Leslyn. Okay, good. Here we go. Hold on. If I'm wrong, I'm blaming you, GS. Leslyn Lewis, well, first of all, is saying the obvious part out loud at an opportune time when apparently they're seeking to amend that law, which had a clause that restricted medical assistance in dying from being available to the mentally ill. Now, I'm not using the term mentally ill in any derogatory, degrading, demeaning manner. Mentally ill, people with diagnosable mental issues, mental illness. Back in the day, we all know this who've been here for a while, when the Liberal government, after the Supreme Court ruled that preventing medical assistance in dying, preventing euthanasia to terminally ill Canadians was a violation of constitutional rights, back when the Supreme Court cared about that. The Liberal government created, I don't know whatever law it is now, I forget what the law number is. And during debates, from what I understand, from what I've been able to read on this, unsolicited, a Liberal minister said, well, we don't want to discriminate against the mentally ill by not allowing them to avail themselves of the provisions of euthanasia. We don't want to discriminate against people with mental illness disorders. So we should make it available to them too. Let's just follow that slippery slope to the cliffs of insanity. Oh, what was it out of Princess Bride? It was the cliffs of insanity. Let's follow that slippery slope to the cliffs of insanity. So they debate it, and then they include that provision. And but in fairness, they say, well, we're not going to make it available yet. We're going to include a restriction that's going to fade into the sunset, so that in 3 years' time, when that exclusion of allowing euthanasia for the mentally ill gets sunsetted, euthanasia becomes available to the mentally ill. I am not I genuinely and truly believe in people having the right to determine when they end their own life. I believe it. And having lived through terminal illnesses, I can see when people say the suffering is too much, whatever lingering hope for a miracle is fading. And at some point, Tom Sizemore had a stroke, is on life support machines in the family now, is faced with the reality that he's never going to get better. There's no coming out of this. It's the scene in Braveheart. It's not getting any better, and it only ends from here. I can see that and appreciate that. Where I think everyone should have their big flags raised is when the government has a vested economic interest in allowing, facilitating, and as we've seen, promoting this, because it allows them to save a lot of money. Where you should have a big problem with this is when I'm going to flag some, not flag, I'm going to star some comments to get to them, because I will have a brief theological, philosophical discussion before we get into the subject matter of the day. When the government has a financial interest in not just allowing, but promoting an end-of-life measure, as opposed to the more complicated preservation of life measure, also known as healthcare, Houston, we have a problem. Or should I say Ottawa, we have a problem. And when in reality, let me see if I can pull up the figures real quick. Medical assistance in dying, Canada stats year over year. When you have a number exploding exponentially year over year, and the government, through its government-subsidized media, saying, don't worry, Canadians, this measure is not going to cost you any money. It might actually save us money in the healthcare system. No, I'm going to swear a lot today, and I apologize. No shit, Sherlock. No shit, Trudeau. Killing people is cheaper than providing the public care, healthcare, that the public healthcare system is supposed to provide to Canadians. No shit, Trudeau. There's an expression in Canadian law. It's cheap in Canadian law from a lawyer's perspective. It is cheaper to kill somebody by accident. I'm not putting accident in quotes. It's cheaper to accidentally kill someone than it is to accidentally injure someone in Canada, because the courts only give so much for a human life. But when you have to pay for permanent disability, permanent injury, well, that costs the responsible individual a lot more over the long run. It's an actual cynical saying in law. It's cheaper to kill someone by accident than it is to injure them by accident. No baloney, Trudeau. It's a cost-saving measure to end someone's life instead of having them rely on the system that was provided for their health care to provide that health care for them. And we've seen it in real time. We have seen people, I've had private discussions with people who are just not yet ready to come public with this, getting calls because all they're asking for, better living conditions, preserving their existing living conditions, not getting booted from their apartment building, accommodations. And you have people saying, it's expensive. Wouldn't you prefer just ending your life? It's not going to get any better for you. I'm trying to find the stats. Year over year, 10,064 Canadians put to death in 2021. They call it MAIDS, medical assistance in dying. Other people will call it euthanasia. Other people might call it something else. 10,064 in 2021 alone. That represents over 3% of all death in Canada being administered by or under the supervision of the government. What could possibly go wrong? I'm trying to find the stat just to show what the number was in 2020. Let me see if I can find it in this. 10,064 in 2021. It was something like 7,000 in 2020. It was, oh, here we go. I think I got it here. StatCan. $5,000 in 2019. Do we have 2018 in here? Less than 20. 5,000 to 7,000 to 10,000. 2019, 2020, 2021. And you have the stories of veterans calling for calling the veterans hotline or the veterans services for help with their PTSD, getting recommended, suggested, just open the door to someone who has PTSD, psychological issues, open the door for suicide. The government apologizes when it happens. You had a woman end her life because she couldn't find proper lodging. She suffered from multiple chemical sensitivity, MCS, also known as severe allergies, couldn't get proper lodging, petitioned the government for, and received euthanasia. That we won't go into it because we've talked about it a number of times. The Simons 3-minute video, Beauty and Everything, or something like that, celebrating the life of a woman who took her own life under the government program. She didn't have a terminal illness. She had a hardening of the arteries, which under certain conditions could shorten your lifespan radically. It's not a comfortable thing. It's a painful thing to live with. Chose to take her life, not a terminal illness, not what was typically regarded as the standard justification for an individual to say, it's not getting any better. The pain and suffering is only going to get worse. I'd like to end it now with dignity. It's gone from end of life with dignity to allowing mentally ill people who are suffering from mental issues, which in law would vitiate their consent for other contracts, to end their own life. And the government is all too happy to oblige. The Liberal government. You know, the Conservatives have been getting a lot of things wrong these days, but they still get some things right. Okay. So yeah, I'm not gonna go back. Not that I was ever quiet. Oh my goodness. When I first discovered this number, my brother this summer says, Dave, did you know that the government euthanized 10,000 Canadians? And I say, it's not possible. It's not possible. It's not possible because the government shut down the country because 20 some odd thousand people had died from COVID in 2020. I think we're up to 40 some odd thousand throughout the life of the pandemic. 20, 30,000. They shut down the country for 20 to 30,000. Surely they're not actually, by their own hand, ending the lives of a third of that many people as a policy. And that, once that eye was open and that red pill swallowed, there's no going back on that. And I will never be quiet about that. All right, now, let me see. There was a comment that I starred here. Tim Hamilton, Viva, what made you vote for Justin Trudeau? I think it was 2015. Pure ignorance. Pure ignorance. Pure naive ignorance, where I thought, as do many people today, it's good to be liberal. If you're liberal, you're liberal. I think people now appreciate if you support the liberals, you're actually pretty close to a fascist. You're actually pretty close to an authoritarian dictator. Liberal, Democrat. Imagine saying, yeah, I support Democrats. I support democracy. Now shut up and take the needle. Stay in your house, mask up your kid, shut down your business for democracy. We got to destroy democracy to preserve democracy. Liberalism. Liberalism is no protests, violent suppression of peaceful protests with a militarized police force, corruption of the judicial process, arguable corruption. Commissioner Rouleau, not the brother of the uncle of the aunt. Commissioner Rouleau, whether it was 30 years ago or whatever, a very political, liberal justice, a political player appointed to investigate the government, and shocky exonerates the government. That's liberalism these days. Censorship, controlling the internet, demonizing ideological dissent. That's liberal. I thought being liberal was, you were liberal if you voted liberal. Now I realize you're actually an authoritarian dictator if you vote liberal. Your body, my choice is what it comes down to. Suicide is a sin. Thou shalt not murder. Suicide is self-murder. Mark in VT, Vermont, I presume. I appreciate that sentiment. And I appreciate from a religious perspective, it's not my life to take, even when it's in my body. I appreciate that. That being said, forcing someone with pancreatic cancer to go through the last days of their life in agonizing misery when, we can agree to disagree. And that's what we'll have to do. All right, now let me see where Jeremy McKenzie, Mr. Diagolon, because I want Jeremy McKenzie to come on and start the show, give us an update. The fundraiser which it's not a fundraiser. It's a campaign. I started a Give, Send, Go campaign for Jeremy McKenzie when the it wasn't the Liberal government. It's just the tools of the Liberal government. Debanked Jeremy McKenzie. And some of you liberals out there say, oh, but he's facing gun charges. He's facing assault charges. He's facing mischief charges. Okay. I thought liberals out there supported criminal justice reform. I thought liberals out there supported, minimal penalties, allow convicted criminals to reintegrate into society. I didn't know that liberals believed in prejudicial convictions. I didn't realize that liberals say, if I don't like your politics, I get to destroy you as a human, thus radically enhancing your likelihood of actually becoming a bona fide criminal. What do you think happens when you debank people, when you demonize people, when you give good, or even just say standard people, no livable option in a civil society? What do you think happens, Mr. Liberal? You know what you do? You create the problem. Then you can solve it afterwards. Well, we better go easy on this criminal. I mean, he's depending on the demographic, we have to forgive some because the system's racist. But when it comes to others, my goodness, let's prejudge them. Let's pre-convict them. Let's shut down their bank accounts. Let's deprive them of their ability to even raise the finances to defend themselves. Let's kick them out of their home. And then when they become a criminal, let's throw the book at them. Viva, I don't think you ain't a liberal no more. I'll tell you what. I'm not a conservative either. Well, I don't think the liberal and conservative I don't think these labels mean anything anymore. I know that I hear from some of my fans in Florida, Viva, you're a liberal, because I believe in some things that are on what most would consider to be the left end of the spectrum. Even on certain stances, which we don't need to go into them. But I know I espouse some beliefs which are left, some which are right in the traditional sense. You know what there is today? There is only those who trust the government and those who understand that you cannot ever trust the government. And that doesn't mean abolish the government. It just means have as little government as conceptually, legally, theoretically possible, and have it live under as much scrutiny as humanly possible. There are only the blue pills and the red pills these days. There is no left versus right. We're live. Let me just send this out. So I wanted to have Jeremy come on because Jeremy, as you know, had his bank accounts shut down. Scotiabank, the company that froze some of the bank accounts at the behest of a tyrannical liberal government, froze bank accounts while being immunized by that liberal government. And they were all too happy to do it. But when the poo-poo hit the fan back when the protests stopped being popular and when people started saying, whoa, this ain't Canada anymore. This is China or something worse. We don't just extrajudicially freeze bank accounts. I mean, Commissioner Rouleau came to a different conclusion, but what does a former judge of the Court of Appeal know? I mean, nothing, except for having just set the new precedent of what's tolerable in Canada in terms of suppressing protests. But back in the day when it looked like it was unpopular to have done what Justin Trudeau did, because you authorize banks to freeze bank accounts, what do? You undermine a society's faith in the financial institution. What ended up happening? People went to their banks and said, well, Jesus, if I don't know that my bank is going to be available to me tomorrow, I'm taking out all my money today. And they did. And there was a run on the banks. So much so, although this has only been imparted to me as hearsay, so take it with that grain of salt, so much of a run on the banks that apparently Justin Trudeau was getting calls from the banks, executives higher up, saying, we don't have the cash in the reserve to honor these withdrawals. So much so that some banks ended up saying, you can't take out more than $500 cash today. Daily limits on cash withdrawals. So much so that after the damage was done and Canada turned into the basic dictatorship of China that Justin Trudeau loves so much, banks were calling the Trudeau government saying, undo this because we can't deal with the pressure. And then they apologized. Scotiabank. Let me bring it up. Scotiabank in particular apologized for having frozen bank accounts when it was convenient and politically expedient to do so. Then, in the dead of night, they go ahead and just debank Jeremy McKenzie. And it wasn't just Scotiabank, because what ended up happening is Jeremy, founder of the ideologically motivated violent extremist group, Diagolon, couldn't get any other bank in Canada to give him a bank account. It's just such a weird thing, right? There's nothing centralized about this. There's nothing that came from the top down. And obviously it came from the top down higher up than Scotia because it was all banks, all federally chartered banks. I don't even know what the solution was anymore, but all of them. Sorry, Jeremy, you haven't been convicted of a goddamn thing. Sorry to use the Lord's name in vain. Other people, some Lord. Sorry. You haven't been convicted of a gosh darn thing in your life. You're a veteran of the Canadian military. You have a guaranteed government pension. Sorry, Jeremy, you don't fit our risk criteria at any bank. It's just like that. Poof, overnight. Nothing to see here. Jeremy Mackenzie has been getting demonized by the media, as has Diagolon. Look, and some of it's justified. And I told Jeremy this, and I'll say it publicly. I know Jeremy as much as you can know someone who you've never met in person. I do think he's a good person, and I don't think he's an asshole, and I certainly don't think he promotes violence because I have the evidence to support that opinion. That being said, he has said some tremendously stupid things under the pretext of jokes, which are not my kind of jokes, that make it very easy for people to demonize him. So Jeremy might be his own worst enemy, but I don't believe that Jeremy is the leader of a militia group, promotes, tolerates, or encourages violence, because he doesn't. And all evidence, despite what Commissioner Rouleau found in that hearing, confirms that. The fact that there was one ballistics vest with what appeared to be a Diagolon patch found in Coots, far away from who the hell knows what the context is there? It seems very convenient because on that one piece of evidence, holy crab apples, did Commissioner Rouleau draw some broad brushstroke conclusions to authorize Justin Trudeau's actions, to what's the word I'm looking for? Ratify Justin Trudeau's actions, to exonerate Justin Trudeau, and by extension the banks, because Commissioner Rouleau did justify freezing of bank accounts, lamenting that it was a little harsh on spouses who might have shared joint accounts, but justified it, exonerated it, and ratified it under the pretext that it was effective in deterring the protesters. Oh yeah. I mean, we went from the criteria that the Emergencies Act is supposed to invoke, absolute necessity in the absence of any existing legislation to remedy the problem, to the criteria that Commissioner Rouleau adopted, effective and therefore justified. The criteria for measures to invoke the Emergencies Act was not effective because plenty of things can be effective and grotesque constitutional overreaches. The criteria was absolutely necessary because there does not exist a remedy currently under existing legislation or infrastructure. Yeah, so that convenient patch, and they therefore froze Jeremy's bank account. I said, this is malarkey of the high. I'm not saying malarkey, because that's actually reminds me of Joe Biden. It's bullshit of the highest order. This is not my Canada. This is not a Canada that I ever thought I knew, and I started a Give, Send, Go campaign. I said here, let me just see it. Where is it here? Give, Send, Go. Here we go. Boom shakalaka. I'll give everyone a link. Set the wildly optimistic, unreasonable goal, but bullshit is bullshit that deserves and needs to get called out. And it's not because the government-funded media goes out and demonizes Jeremy, fabricates ideological motivated violent extremism through Mackenzie. They outright fabricated it so they could then justify tyrannical, authoritarian, un-Canadian measures that a judge came out and ratified. Here. Judge freaking ratified it. Commissioner Rouleau freaking ratified everything Trudeau did, with the exception of his order to cancel insurance policies on trucks, cars, etc. Hey, Commissioner Rouleau, if I may ask the obvious question. If you ratified the freezing of bank accounts because it was effective, why not ratify canceling car insurances? Oh, that wouldn't have been effective because if you cancel their insurance, they can't drive their cars out. So that, although probably equally tyrannical, equally charter violation, equally unjustifiable, given that all of the necessary recourses, remedies, and legislation already existed, as evidenced by the fact that they invoked them at the Windsor blockade. canceling the insurance was not effective or would not have been effective because how could they be expected to drive their cars and trucks out if they don't have valid car insurance? You're thinking smart, Commissioner Hulot. It would have been effective if it just, broke their arms behind their backs, because then they would have done it and been able to do it. Wait, I got an idea. Why not just arrest all of them? Summary arrests and summary convictions. The directive, just summary arrests, seizures of all assets. That would be very effective. I'm not going to stop raising hell about it either. And I'm a little, I don't want to say disappointed because I don't want to impute intentions. All agencies and news outlets have their priorities. They have their interests. RT, I was on RT, Russia Today, when they were covering the protest, because you sure as hell weren't getting fair coverage from CBC. They should be covering Commissioner Hulot's ruling. I'm sure Russell Brand will get around to it because it's inconceivable with the interest that he's had in this, that he doesn't. I want to get back on Steve Bannon to talk about it. I want to get on Patrick Bet-David to talk about it. I can only talk about it so much on my channel where all of you are going to say, Viva, we know. People need to know this. And in the States, which has the biggest influence in the world, people and platforms out here need to make hell about this. Mock the Trudeau regime the way they deserve to be mocked, so that the rest of the world can see this is what is in store for you. If you don't mock this, and if you don't protest this, even though it's not at your front door, it's only a matter of time before it gets there, because the precedent has been set in Canada. Your right to protest is subject to the whims and to the, I want to remember the word, caprices? Is that the word? Whatever, the capricious whims of a petty tyrant with an admiration for the basic dictatorship of China. Now, I thought I just saw Jeremy pop in and then he might have popped out. Yeah, FAFO. I now know what FAFO stands for. F around, find out. I don't know why. Okay, Viva, please never stop your efforts to inform Canadians. Brad Raymond. The Canadians, you guys know. This is where this has to have a siphonic reach. I like that, siphonic. So that's it. I'm going to continue to get it out there. Now, I saw Jeremy, and then once he gets on, okay. Did I see you? Or am I going crazy? Now, I actually forgot to do all of my standard intros, and we're like 27 minutes into this. There was a super chat, and I'm going to get to it right here. Cedar Rose says, hey, Viva, can you give a shout out to my fellow Canadian, Nika03? She watches your streams and adores you. She doesn't know I am sending this, but it will make her day. Well, I hope I'm not being trolled the way Cedar, I'm joking. I was going to say the way Jeremy and the way Diagolon trolled Christine Anderson. We're going to get there. Let me do it. And let me take this down. Her name is Nika03. Nika03. I don't know if it's your birthday today, but happy birthday when your birthday comes around. And Nika03. May the day bring you everything you ever wanted out of a day. And Nika3, if I find it'll be the irony. This is the world in which we live. We have to worry about how a dishonest and disingenuous media might spin anything that we do in the real world. Well, I'm at that point where it's not a FAFO. I'm at that point where I don't give a blank anymore. We're done. So I'll get the standard disclaimers after Jeremy's in. Jeremy's in the house. I see him. Jeremy, you can hear me? 3, 2, 1. I'm fraternizing with the founder of Diagolon. Sir, how goes the battle? If I can ask the obvious question to which I know the answer.
Not bad, actually. Sorry, I'm just a little bit late. I had a lawyer call there, so we're working on some stuff. Everything's looks good,
Okay. Jeremy, let's just do. We're going to do the update. I said at some point we're going to. I set up the campaign. At some point, it'll come to an end. I figured, I don't know, you'll set the hard deadline today and let me know, and then we'll just, pump it out there. But what's been going on your end? We don't need to know details, just an overview. How are you faring against everything that's going on?
Pretty good, actually. Surprisingly, well, not surprising. I'm not surprised, but probably some people are. My enemies probably are. We've actually just launched because I get accused, well, a lot of us do. I'm sure we've all dealt with this because if you're online doing anything, you're a grifter. You're grifting, and everything is just, that kind of stuff. So we've launched our merch shop, selling, flags and things, and we've called it the Grift Shop. It's the grift.shop. That's the website you can go and, and it's actually, we just started yesterday, and it's actually doing pretty well. So that's good. And fortunately, thanks to you and your community and a lot of the, people that have showed up to help and, covered most of my legal fees have been covered. So that's been pretty great. And I've not been able to get a traditional bank account per se. I have remedied that. There's something in place that functions as a bank account. So,
like I mentioned it, and I had from a good source that even at the banks at the local level, they had no idea why it was just an order coming down from the top. It was all banks, and it was basically all federally chartered banks, correct?
I think so. I didn't check every single one. I mean, I did a couple credit unions, a couple of the other banking competitors, like the big name ones, and they're just like, yeah, no. It was pretty. I didn't want to waste time like week after week after week, going through application after application. Once I kind of got the picture, it was pretty. I would have to go into an obscure place to find banks people have never heard of or this kind of thing, that people that they're not in the cool kids club of the banking cartel, that maybe they won't care, and that's what I did. So I've got a few different accounts in that operate in different countries that I'm not, that's what it's come to.
Dude,
but
I don't want any
there
more
it is.
information than that. So this is the grift. I love it.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
People throw around the word grift. They
know.
don't understand what it means. It's like imagine calling me as a lawyer. You're grifting for that
Well,
$100,000 a year.
Technically, yes. Taking money for services you provide is what's grifting. So it's like, a job is grifting, I suppose. And everything I do, and I'm sure what you're doing, like, this is free. Like, no one's paying us to be here. Like, anyone can watch anything I do for free forever. They always will and can. And if people want to send money, they can. I appreciate it.
Jeremy,
they don't have to.
When you set up a paywall for some stuff to actually give exclusive content to those who financially support you, then it's all about the money. The grift term drives me nuts because grift technically, and this is my understanding, this is how I believe it to exist. It's creating the drama to profit from the drama. That's what grifting means. Graft, oddly enough, in British talk means to work hard. I like this. So now hold on, because I saw. Oh, there you go. So someone sent me a Diagolon ring in the mail, and Jeremy, I'm not paranoid, and I think it was a thank you and not a let's troll Viva Frei. Do you know?
I don't think it was a threat. No.
unless it's Trudeau sending it to me so that I'll take a picture with it, and then he's gonna say, "Look, Viva has a." It's actually I'll show it. It's in an alligator's mouth, in an alligator head mouth. But Jeremy,
it's gotten so ridiculous. It might as well be at this point. And they like to rewrite history too. At this point, I feel like when my son is the appropriate age, he's like 17 doing World War II history. I'll be like flipping through like, oh, these are all the Waffen SS divisions. And Nazis. What? There's a Diagolon flag in there between like the 3rd and 4th SS Panzer Division. I'll be like, they might as well at this point. They've really tried to make this a thing. Like,
well, they made it a thing this week. Now, do you know what happened with Christine Anderson?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about this very briefly, and then everybody, when I'm done with Jeremy, or when Jeremy's done, when we end with Jeremy, when we're done with the section with Jeremy, I'm going to end on YouTube and then go over to Rumble. We're live on Rumble. I forgot to double check. We are, and we are also live on local, a dedicated RTMP.
Nice.
Okay, so. What happened? I mean, I read the news, then I read Poilier's reaction, which we're going to go over in Rumble when you're not here, because I got choice words. But what happened?
I bet you. So, I mean, it was Derek's kind of idea. Like, I did a similar thing with him in the fall, in September. The big handshake, nonsense, because I knew how the media would react, and my objective in doing that was to show them like this is how deranged they are. Just this simply, like, I've always been a critic of the guy. I've never been a fan of him. It's just an ambiguous picture is all I wanted to put up there so that they would spin out of control. They were always saying crazy stuff about him meeting James Topp, white supremacy, all this. So I'm like, I'm just going to make this worse, like, because they won't be able to resist. They won't be able to, and they didn't. And so Derek's like, let's do same thing. Really, we'd hope that they would, the anti-hate network people would, and that was the plan. But the idea was to we like Christine Anderson. I like her. I think she's got a lot of good ideas, and I like what she has to say. I think she seems like a pretty good a good leader. She's supportive of us, and so there was no reason not to, support her and see what she's. So Derek went there and went to the event and explained to her the story, the Diagolon story, like what this means and where it came from, and that the Emergency Act was invoked as a She understands the thing, and she thought it was funny, and she's like, "That is funny." She's like, "Let's pose for a photo." And he said, "They're going to call us neo Nazis and so on." She's like, "That's even funnier." And she's like, "My friend Stacy here is Jewish, and she wants to get in on the photo as well as like an extra kind of a joke." So like knowing that this is where they would go with it, and they did it anyway. I didn't realize, and we didn't think that the conservatives would literally do the bike meme. My friend Farrah made, where he's pedaling the bicycle, and the bicycle says the freedom movement, and then he takes the stick and jams it in there, and he's like, "Why would Diagolon do this?" as he's holding his own knee. Like there is no reason, because they were content to ignore this person. Everyone knows who Christine Anderson is. I mean, come on. To act like they didn't know. I didn't know her politics. Don't be ridiculous. They were fine with her until that happened.
Everyone knows who she is, and everyone knows who she isn't, which makes some of the accusations coming out afterwards even more outlandish. But okay, so I was going to say, did she know that? Was she? Was the joke played on her from a Nietzschean perspective? Like using her as a means to an end. She knew about it, and she was fine with it, and she posed and she said, "I know they're going to make fun of me, but I'm doing it anyway."
Yeah, she said, "I had fun doing it, and I'll do it again." Alexa Lavoie from Rebel News asked her, like, "Don't you like with a controversial day?" And she's like, "No, they're internet comedians. They explained the joke to me, and I thought it was amazing. I thought it was hilarious. I'll do it again. I didn't mind it at all. I had a great time hanging out with those people, So, she didn't. No, we didn't. Ambush her with anything, or anything like that. Like, people will. They like the Paul Fromm trick. The other side likes to do that. He'll show up and be near, like Adamson's barbecue. Do you remember when that happened?
Yeah, for sure.
And they're like, Paul Fromm was there, and it's like, he doesn't know who that is, and he doesn't care. He's just there's an old guy in a trench coat. Like, I don't. So a man has showed up to express support, so I said thank you and shook his hand. I mean, that's the end of the thing. And then they try to take it, but he explained it to her ahead of time. Like, I want to take this photo with you, but before I do, this is the story. And she listened to him, and he explained. It's on video, him explaining it to her. And she's like, "That's funny." Yeah.
That, if I may ask, where's it on video?
Derek has copies. I don't know if he's uploaded them at all, but
okay. No. Well, actually, that answers probably one of the most important questions in all of this is that it was not unwitting. It was not exploitive of Christine Anderson, and she did it as a principled stand against the absolute lunacy. Did you? We haven't talked since the commissioner's report. Have you read the 2,000-page 4-volume report, Jeremy?
Oh, every night before bedtime. That's my favorite.
Well, I'll tell you, to simplify your role, if you just do Control F and look for all references of Diagolon, you'll find a lot of stuff which is hilariously inconsistent, where the judge comes to the conclusion that what happened in Coots with that ballistics vest with the Diagolon patch,
which it isn't. I was like, I object to the term ballistic vest. A ballistic vest means it has some kind of defensive properties against ballistics, i.e., fragmentation, but like Kevlar, bulletproof vest, ballistic plates. Nothing. It's a vest with essentially it's no different in any. It's a vest with pockets in it. With a patch on it. So essentially, their evidence is we found this arrangement of colors and shapes on some clothing. So. Emergency.
I'm not calling you a liar, and there's no but. I'm just going to pull up that picture now. Coots. How do you spell Coots?
Coutts.
Coutts. Okay, because I've been using the term ballistics vest because that's the term I heard.
That's what they're using, but it's to make it sound scarier. But there's no.
Let me pull this up. I don't know that we can
properties.
see it. So no ballistic property. It could be a fly fishing vest. So it's the green one.
Right.
Okay, so
now if there's, I can't tell from the photo. I mean, I feel like they would have said if there was like ceramic plates put in there or Kevlar plates, then it would be. But you can buy these at Cabela's for like $40. It's just a vest with pocket. Guys use them to go hunting, fishing, all kinds of things.
Well,
because it's handy.
I bought one that had weights in it, and it looked like an absolute other type of vest, which I then said, I'm not running in public with this thing. Plus, I heard at the end of the day, running with 40 pounds of weight is not all that good for my bow legs.
You shouldn't do it unless you need to for some reason.
Sorry, get that out of here. What if I need to prove to myself that I'm a man, Jeremy, and that
then yes, that's what I did. It took me 15 years in the army before I was satisfied. I really didn't get. I just had to keep punishing myself. Apparently.
Sweet Jesus! So it really was, as far as as anybody knows, there was no bulletproof aspect of it. It's just a green military-looking vest.
Yeah, it's a green. Basically, one of the guys, I think it was Ferry. I don't know who made it, but one of them. It was the Mr. Burns meme from The Simpsons, and it was the commissioner's face on Mr. Burns, and he's got the vest. He's like, "See my vest, see my vest." You know, that's my evidence. There's a vest with a color arrangement on it, so I'm satisfied. There's a terror network that's imminently about to overthrow the country.
Now that you mention it, it's illegal to have a bulletproof vest in Canada.
It's not illegal to own in several provinces in Manitoba. There's a couple provinces you need a PAL to buy one, so they won't give you one unless you have one. And I think in 2 provinces in Nova Scotia and maybe Alberta, I'm not sure, it's illegal to wear in public without a permit. There's no law whatsoever that says you can't have it in your possession. Otherwise, I wasn't charged with it. They weren't charged with. No one. Where's anybody getting charged with owning body armor? Like, you know, I had stuff laying around from when I was in the Army, and I was going to do contracting and stuff. It's not. You can go buy. You just need a firearms license, and you can buy it. They just won't ship it to certain provinces because of those reasons. But there's no law that says you can't own it.
I'm getting conflicting results. I'll look into it afterwards. There's one result that says if you possess body armor without a permit, you could face $10,000 fine, 6 months in jail. Another, it looks like a body armor website says it's legal in certain provinces, not Alberta, British Columbia, Manitoba, Nova Scotia. All right, whatever, to be determined. But bottom line, as far as you know, and as far as anybody knows, there were no bulletproof capabilities of that vest. It might just have been a green.
I just take issue with. I'm from the George Carlin school of paying attention, where I like to see what kind of words they use deliberately. Like why use ballistic? You know, like why say that when it isn't? Because it invokes certain imagery and themes and ideas in the reader's head of this is a militant, scary. You know, they could have said, you know, it doesn't have the same effect as vest. You know, ballistic vest sounds worse, so we're going to say that.
Yep. No, and I now I feel like an idiot for having taken the bait. All right. So Christine Anderson knew about it. I got a call from someone after it happened, and they were livid with the reaction from. I'm not even going to use the liberal term to demonize Pierre Poilievre. I'm still going to call him Pierre Poilievre. What do you know of the reaction? I'm going to go over a little bit more of this after you're no longer on the podcast, but some articles. What do you know the Conservatives actually said, or what did they not say, or what was the response?
My understanding is, it sounds to me, and this is just basically what I've seen, and then I've pieced it together in my own head. I just come up with my own theory first, and then I think everyone should do that, because I was talking about this on my own stream last night, that something will happen, and then instead of thinking, they just go to whatever their preferred outlet is of cues on how to interpret information, like how this is upsetting, this is scary, this is serious, they'll go to whatever that is to then download the reaction rather than just look at it themselves and come to their own kind of conclusion. So what it looks like to me is that Brian Lilly, who's repeatedly called me a neo-Nazi with no evidence whatsoever because he's a buffoon and basically just a cheerleader for the Conservative Party, he seems to have reached out to them, and they gave him a statement, which he put on Twitter, and everything else kind of happened after that. So I think he thought he was doing them a favor, because he's in that thought of the conservative world where it's like, we'll just be better at being liberals than the liberals are, and we'll get elected. And anyway, that's what they're doing. So what I found interesting about it, and I think what happened was, he was either, I don't think it was Peeps that was triggered, but somebody was in his office. It could have been his wife, maybe. It could be the campaign. It could be somebody close to him. I don't know. But if you recall, in September, when we had that little, back and forth, he and I, and they released this little statement, and it was this. It wasn't a traditional press release from the Conservative Party with the leather head and the branding on it. There was no video. It was this strange white box with white text on it, and was clearly authored by someone. The author's voice and the syntax and stuff. It wasn't him. It was someone else. And this is the same person, because it's the same, again, nondescript white box, black text, strange. So that tells me this is probably the same person, which then tells me that this person really doesn't like me, because it's about me in both instances. They're emotionally triggered by this and knee-jerk reacted to, and then attack Christine Anderson and throw the MPs under the bus that met with her, because he saw colors and shapes that he didn't like, or someone did. So they freaked out, and now they're sitting on this, this fiasco. I mean, this was a terrible idea to do, and there was no reason to say any of the things that he said with no evidence. And now he's just all but gone out and disavowed the entire Freedom Convoy. He's done everything but say it out loud, and he won't even put it on his own page. He's content to It's crazy. Like,
Well,
he's the who is he hiding from? It's his party. He can come out and say one thing one way or the other, and he's just choosing to let this mess because this is the only move he has. He can't. If this isn't how he thought, he should say otherwise, and he won't. So, what
I didn't appreciate immediately when this all came out is the history actually of your comments about his wife and or your and it now explains something of the reaction, and more especially the MO for the alleged release of the statement. Did you hear Pierre Poilievre sort of, it's my belief, weaselly backtrack on his initial support of the convoy once it's now no longer as politically popular to support it, and purport that the protesters were there to fight Justin's inflation and not Justin's tyrannical vaccine mandates?
Yeah, he's using them. That was clear for a long time. I like to point out that you think of who was saying things counter to the narrative when it wasn't popular to do, when there was consequences. So for you to come out and say, this is wrong, we shouldn't be doing this, these lockdowns are wrong, and these mandates are wrong, blah, blah. Are you going to lose your job? Are you going to, like, at a time, for a long time, up until quite recently, it was suicidal, so that was a choice you had to make. Did he do that? No, he didn't. Some people did. He didn't. He was fine with it, and now he was saying, get boosted, get vaccinated, we're all in this together, and so on and so on and so on. And now that bodies are piling up, people are plastering photos of their loved ones dead on the windows of CBC, and he's going, the cost of milk, and I went off on him last night for I don't know how many. And it's not just him. I don't want to make it seem like it's personal or I have anything against him personally. He just represents the same. It's just this another face of the same monster I've been battling against my whole life. And he's up there saying, I don't know why people are so angry. Why are people so angry? They're angry because their loved ones are committing suicide and dying in droves, and you won't even acknowledge their existence. And that's why people were in Ottawa. They opposed these mandates, and they were afraid of the side effects. They didn't like being coerced into this. There's a giant elephant in the room called the COVID narrative, and he doesn't want to talk about it ever. Because he's part of the problem, and his old base wants to pretend that's no. This comes down to, do you respect individual human rights or don't you? And these people don't. And they didn't come out in support of. They didn't get in the way of any. They wouldn't take any heat for it. They were content and fine to let Maxime Bernier do that, and let Derek Sloan do that, and let Randy Hilliard do that, and let Hodgkinson and these doctors and everybody else take the heat for it. And the truckers, I'm content to let them go out, have their property destroyed, be imprisoned for nothing, have their bank account seized and closed, have people thrown in jail. And then I'll be like, I kind of support them. They went out and took the hits for it, and they enjoy no support and no backup from the Conservative Party. So they want the support from the trucker convoy. They want all the good things that comes from that, but they don't want to have to take on any of the support doesn't go both ways, is what I'm saying. And it's obvious. So that's entirely what it is. He's trying to scoop this momentum up for himself, ride it like a surfer on a wave all the way into the office, and then when he doesn't need you anymore, that's it. And this was I think this was an emotional reaction because he was triggered. But I mean, they are people. It's not that hard to imagine. I mean, the prime minister's a drama teacher, for God's sakes. These aren't high quality people we're dealing with. They're not serious professional. And it's like, is it possible he was triggered by this? And yes, or someone in his office or somebody. And now we're sitting in this. Now they have this hot potato to deal with, and they can't ever undo this. And it's too late, and too much time has gone by. He did it to himself, and some of the CPC diehards are trying to say that this is distraction. This is just distracting from the China stuff, and they're trying to blame me and the guys. It's like, you made this a distraction. No one was talking about you. We weren't. What did Derek say? He's like, I wasn't even aiming at you. He's like, I was just trying to get a picture with her and troll the anti-hate people, and you came in here and shot yourself in the foot. And now you're crying victim. Like, we didn't. Why did you do that for? Anyway, sorry, I went on a rant there. But
well, first of all, it's fantastic. And someone asked, Maureen Brown said you should run for office, Jeremy. No?
If I thought that would do it, if that might work, Chris Sky's running for mayor of Toronto. Now that I feel like he could win. That's possible, and that would be a hand grenade into the whole machine of lies. I would love to see that chaos just erupt. It would be amazing. But I don't think that.
What's amazing?
Running for office.
To get back to I'll say it wasn't a rant. It was a damn good addition to the discussion. It's Pierre Poilievre did, Aaron O'Toole was light, was just a version light of lockdowns, vaccine mandates, etc. Pierre never said a damn word. He never said anything against Pierre when Aaron O'Toole basically lost the last election. He comes out when it looks like there's momentum within the public opinion to support the protesters, goes and has breakfast, posts it to Twitter. I mean, it's obvious that had the rouleau come down and given just Trudeau a little slap on the wrist, they would have been all over it, doubling down on their prior support.
Yeah.
And now he says, well, geez, I can't. The coward. I mean, it's political cowardice, because he should have doubled down anyhow and said Rouleau, a longtime Liberal supporter, a political player, gave Trudeau what he needed. And whether or not they knew what was coming down the pike with the story with China, they obviously knew that was coming down the pike. Maybe this is just sort of political buffer for what should be a story on its own that should take down Prime Minister. And instead, Pierre just backtracks and looks, and it's not popular anymore. Let's ease off the pedal a little bit and just be a political.
It makes me curious as to what they have on them. It's either like you said, it could just be that simple. It could just be cowardice, which I think is totally plausible, where they're literally afraid. And there's clues everywhere. Like, so this press release I used the other evening where they were talking about the Beijing Communist Party. Okay, like they can't even say, and in parentheses it says CCP. It's like, why? It's not the BCP, it's the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. They're afraid to even say the word Chinese or China because the liberals will call them racist. So they're not even worried about, again, it's like you have hundreds of people's faces plastered outside in this building. There's literally people dying. I was talking to a guy the other night, his wife shot herself, and him and his friends she's deteriorating in front of their eyes. They don't know how to help her. She can't stop shaking. She's in pain all the time. And he's out trying to find doctors. Like, I got to save my wife. This is horrible. And don't worry, man. She's gone. It's over. I don't know why people are so angry. That's why this is a huge problem, and you're running around talking about the cost of milk, and then some of the very rare people that do have the stones to call it like it is and tell these people who they really are for the whole world to see. When they show up, you say that they're vile and racist and should never have come to the country. Like, you don't even have a finger on the pulse. Like, do you even know what day it is or where you are? Like,
well, and the flack that I'm taking on Twitter for being harsh on Pierre, I'm splitting the vote and yada. First of all, there's a lot of people who don't seem to know I ran for the People's Party of Canada, so I'm not a Maxime Bernier lackey. That's the party whose principles I espouse and have espoused from the very beginning. So I'm not a lackey. I'm sure I was reluctant to even get behind what's his face, Pierre. Even after he makes some good statements. He had some good cross-examinations of Trudeau. He said the right things at the right time, but he didn't say the right things at the wrong time. And now he sure as hell is saying the wrong things at the wrong time. And he's doing it to himself. I was never a conservative supporter to begin with. I ran for the PPC. If you're new to the channel, that's my bias. But holy hell, is it justified bias now?
Yeah, I'm a founding member of the party also. So, I mean, I get it. And it's not like... That's what people don't seem to understand, especially about like the PPC supporters, the vote splitting. I hate that. It's like 95% of the people in the PPC, if there was no PPC, just wouldn't vote. Like, they're not there because they're confused and would have voted conservative, but when they're there because the conservatives aren't conservatives, and I'm not willing to support a lie and this, they're very corrupt and they've done all kinds of. It's just a stained bad. Like, it's no good, and they're not real, and they're in the way. There's no real right-wing party or anything resembling conservatism in Canada. So that's why the PPC exists. People forget this. They had Maxime Bernier is the rightful leader of the Conservative Party. He was the most popular one. He was in line to take over the party, and instead they made sure that Milkman, Scheer was put in there over him in that leadership race. They had all the ballots were found, and it was like there was some shenanigans that went on there at the last minute. Maxime had won every ballot all the way to the last one, and then at the last minute there's this miraculous flop, and Scheer has taken over. So it's like he was ousted in a coup by his own people, by liberals inside the Conservative Party that took over the Conservative Party and have now convinced the Conservative Party not to listen to the actual Conservative Party leader, who was technically Maxime Bernier, and follow red, blue tie liberals around, or red Tories, or whatever, that you want to call it. It's crazy. It's like they're emotionally more interested in hating the Prime Minister than making sound decisions. Because it's like, I don't like him either, and I think he's a criminal, and all of this. We agree on that. But but I disagree with replacing this guy with someone exactly like him. I don't see how that's going to change anything. There's not going to make any difference at all. That's
what blows my mind. It's like, they hate Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
And it seems only because of corruption and not because of policy, because they're turning around and basically supporting the exact same policy for international conflict, which we're going to get to after.
Sure.
And vaccine lights. It's like, oh no. And now all discussion about the tyranny of the last 3 years has been pushed out the door because Commissioner Rouleau came in and said he was right to suppress that protest. And now it's no longer popular to even talk about it, despite people dropping like flies for whatever the reason.
Yeah.
Hold on.
There'll be a part 2. That's the thing. It's and I'm not making threat. I'm just making an observation on, like, this is my prediction as, like, the weatherman, and my weather that I judge is the temperature of the people in the room, I suppose. I could see that coming. That Ottawa thing was going to happen one way or another. Like, that energy, all this frustration, like, that man lost his wife for, like, that's not going away. That's not something he's going to get over. How many times has this been repeated? How many people does this affect? How many people lost their jobs, careers? You know, they don't talk to their children anymore, or vice versa. Their families are separated. All of this. This is a chasm into the national psyche of like, the hearts of the people in this country are very badly damaged, and that's got to go somewhere. That energy has to be. Something has to be done with it. It has to go somewhere. It's not just go into the air and dissipate, and everyone's just, oh, well, let's just go back to watching hockey and so on. So the longer they ignore this and pretend that these people don't need a vote, no one needs to represent them, it's just going to keep happening. And the next time this is going to boil over, which, you know, if their concerns aren't addressed, why wouldn't it? There'll be an even bigger situation than the trucker convoy.
It's I interviewed the woman whose 2 sons took their lives during the lockdowns, and Jugmeat doesn't go down and talk to them. He goes down, protests on Parliament when it's something to do with labor unions. He knows where his political bread is buttered. Trudeau doesn't come down to talk to them.
No. And that's all it would have taken. I said at the time, they were like, well, what should they have done? Is all they had to do. And I would have been in shock if he had walked out there with, like, a minimal detail of security, and, like, I walked right up onto the stage of the truck and be like, what's going on, guys? Let's figure. What do we got to do? Let's see what's going on here. Produce me some people to talk to, and because I can't stand here and talk to 50,000 people. That's not going to happen. But you need to figure out to produce some kind. What was stopping them from doing this? And be like, we understand it, but listen, there's no who's representing this. We can't talk to 50,000 people individually. You need to produce some kind of a panel, 3 people, 5, whatever, to cover what's going on, so that we can open a dialogue. No one even attempted that. So the obvious first reaction to, in a democratic country where we're supposed to use our words and use our ideas or conversations to get to the root of an issue and come to a favorable an outcome for everybody. We just skipped over that, and we skipped to the last page. We went right to horse tramplings and beatings and bank account seizures. We skipped the talking and went right to martial law.
Oh, but you don't dignify. I won't even call them protesters. They're racist, misogynist, xenophobes, anti.
Yeah.
Jeremy, let me read this one here. Viva, the Emergency Act Commission was Canada's January 6th commission, a political wrap-up smear. Yeah. I'm an idiot because I thought it was a foregone conclusion there would have to be. I thought it was just going to be a slap on the wrist and they would look to, make him look not so bad. It wasn't on my radar given what I saw during the 6 weeks. Full exoneration and outrageous. Yeah. Jeremy, so I've shared the link again to your Give, Send, Go campaign. What do you say? Do we put a hard date like Friday noon and then shut it down?
Yeah, sure.
Friday noon, I'm going to tweet it out. This is look, people think you're going to get rich off this, even if you could pay off your house. Even if you could pay off the mortgage, I don't know what the heck you're going to do in a year's time. The legal fees, you're a very bad man. You keep getting into trouble with the law. You have civil. Well, you have a number of cases. Everybody, if you want to support it, it's Give, Send, Go, and not Go F Me, because Go F Me should be dead to everybody. The links there. Jeremy, what are your social media platforms and where can people find you for those who might not know who you are?
Yeah, I'm banned on most things. The website is the best spot, ragingdissident.com, and I have an Instagram account, a YouTube. What they change because I'm banned from things all the time. So that's the ragingdissident.com, and then whatever I'm not banned from at the moment, which changes, by the time I get off this interview, I may be banned from something else. But that's where you go to find it, ragingdissident.com, and the grift.shop if you want to find a flag or something. Thegrift.shop, because you've got money and we want the money, so give us your money.
Everybody needs a shirt. Not everybody needs a big fat Super Bowl trophy ring, but everybody needs a shirt. I should do a better job.
Terrible quality, made in China. This is straight up just me taking your money for useless products, and we're being completely upfront and honest about that. So it's like, give us money for garbage. It's fun, And if you don't have money, your kids probably have money. Do you have kids? Take their money. You know, maybe they've saved up for something. Does your wife have money? She's probably got a credit card. Take that. You've got neighbors. Rob them. Do whatever you got to do, but just give us money.
Oh, and by the way,
all we were asking.
For the CBC fact checkers, he's not promoting robbing your neighbor.
See, it works. It works. This guy, I've already got his money. He's paid the DAG tax. He's okay. He's safe. Craig, I haven't seen anything from you. Kimberly Riddell, she says, I love his podcast. Where's your money? Give me your money.
Sell your Jeremy. Thank you for coming on. We'll talk. Look, as soon as there's developments, I'm glad I got some of this info on Christine Anderson, because my only concern was that she was unwittingly put in this circumstance.
Nope.
I like her even more now.
Yeah, Alexa Lavoie from Rebel News asked her that exact question, and she said, "No, I enjoyed it. I would do it again. I have no regrets whatsoever." So she's outstanding, and she refused to throw anybody under the bus. She did great. So I'll just stand here and how's everybody doing? What's going on? Viva Frei's channel. I've hijacked it now. It's mine. Oh wait, he's back. It was a short-lived.
What did he do? What did he do?
There was a coup. I had taken over, as I did North America. Dagalon had taken over the Viva Frei channel for a moment, briefly.
I got this in the mail, Jeremy, and I put it in the alligator's mouth. This is an actual alligator head. Just
awesome.
So don't ask why I have either of those things, but I got it in the mail.
He's killing baby alligators.
So the alligator came from this place called. Did I pull it on? It came from a place called the Holiday Everglades Boat Tour. They farm the flesh and then they use every part of the alligator for. I got it for a kid who didn't like it as much as I thought they would.
Scared them, yeah, freaked them out.
Jeremy, thank you very much. We're still going to obviously be. That's why I'm hearing something weird. Gosh darn it. We're going to be in touch. And hold on. Before you go, someone just came by to say hello.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah,
She's back.
This is a he and a half. His testicles.
I don't want to. Okay, I don't want to misgender the dog.
Well, he's a he and a half because his balls.
Can I even say it's a dog? It may identify as a bird. I don't know.
This dog identifies as a lazy. Never. I won't say it, but his testicles haven't descended yet, so I don't know what the name of that condition is. They're stuck up in his abdomen. So
soprano? I don't know.
No, it's like someone's going to get it. It's like a cryoprism or something. They say
one of those.
Nobody in the chat's getting this. Anyhow, so that's it. Winston says hi. Jeremy, thank you for the clarity. Godspeed.
Thank you.
Because your trip is not over yet, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and thanks to your audience and everybody for the support and everything. I appreciate it more than you can imagine. Some people look. I'll say I'm supporting you. I don't consider it supporting you or Diagolon. It's supporting a free Canada, and you are the example right now that the government is making that we live in something closer to a Chinese Communist Party, not the Beijing Party, than a Canada that I knew. Yeah. If you can't even say the name of the problem, what hope do you have? No, it's like you're defending a party that is not defending themselves. They call themselves the Chinese Communist Party. You think now, and by doing it, by the way, you make something wrong with being Chinese. Like it's there we go. Wild. Crypto chitism when the testes do not descend. All right, Jeremy, enjoy the day. Thank you very much, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much. All right, appreciate it. Take care. God bless. All right, bye-bye. All right, people, that was great. Crypto critism. The testes do not descend to abdomen. Okay, right now, people, I know some of you aren't going to like it. Too bad. We're going to Rumble. You can also go to Locals because we have a simultaneous live stream on Locals. So if you don't like the Rumble interface for whatever the reason, let me know why, because I can relay that information to the team. Go to vivabarneslaw.locals.com and you can watch it there as well. What I was going to say, I'm very bad at selling my own merch, but you can get good merch at vivafrei.com. I've asked our platform to make sure that in as much as humanly possible, the stuff comes from like better countries that are in the manufacturing of merchandise business. Vivafrei.com. Okay, we're going to end it on YouTube. And then we're going to go over some articles. I got a whole lot of stuff to talk about. Link, hold on. So one link for Locals was there, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Here's the link to Rumble. And now we're going to end it on YouTube. 3,